Hello and welcome to the official AFC Wimbledon podcast. This season brought to you by Fire Door Compliance Consultants Limited, keeping you and your properties safe and in compliance with the law. I really hope you've had a wonderful festive season. The gifting isn't done yet. We've got an absolute cracker on the way with a true Dons icon. This man is a Wimbledon hero playing in that game at Sutton United, AFC Wimbledon's first ever captain and a man who drove the club to the combined counties title. True icon of our football club. Welcome to the podcast, Joe Sheerin.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Love that intro.
Oh.
I don't know if I deserve it, but
You're
yeah,
very, very welcome.
No,
happy Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
To you. Great to have you alongside us. What does Christmas look like for you?
It's time with the family, really. We had like about 12 of us round. All mostly my wife's side of the family, which can get a little bit boozy, but it's it's good. It's just a little break and time with the family. So
What about
lovely.
life right now? What is life looking like for Joe Sheerin? What are you up to?
Well, like we were talking about before we started. I work for a coffee company, which I really enjoy. I do a bit of football coaching as well, and get to coach my daughter a little bit. She's playing for Leatherhead ladies, or Leatherhead women, sorry. So she's captain of that team, and
You a pushy parent?
No, not at all. Not at all. The exact opposite.
Running sessions in the garden?
No, she wouldn't let me coach her.
No?
No, I tried. I just enjoy watching her play football.
Mm-hmm.
She got into it late. I never wanted to push her into it. But she got to about, I think, 11 or 12. And I was actually I was at an AFC Wimbledon game, and someone came up and said that they're starting that age group for the girls, and would she be interested? So I mentioned it to her, and she said yeah. And she hasn't looked back. She loves it. But she won't let me coach her, and it causes arguments. So I learned early on to just stand back and just enjoy watching her. So I only ever said two things when she was playing. It was well done or unlucky.
Is she a forward? Like around
No, centre back. Yeah, the opposite.
Let's get into football. Before we kind of do, I just want to ask you, Wimbledon, you grew up around the area. You are the local hero. You become the local hero. You're a local boy. What was it like? What was that area like, especially in your time when it was sort of like, the crazy gang were rife and there was a real feel-good factor about the football club?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Fulham and then moved to Southfields when I was about 8. And so it was only about a mile and a half away from Plough Lane. So, yeah, that was where I got to watch live football. And that was it was amazing because I used to go it was a little cage section in the corner that was quite lively, and me and my mates used to go there, or sometimes my dad would take me there, and that's basically where I watched all live football.
How did you discover the football club though? Was it a case of you were given tickets? Was it your dad? Was it going with mates? What was it? What was your first sort of taste of Wimbledon's football club?
Well, I mean, I grew up an Everton fan. It's my dad's fault, so he made me an Everton fan, and they played. So Wimbledon played them, I think it might have been 87 in the FA Cup. And I remember going there, we went in the away end, and I was thinking that Everton back then were flying. I think they were going to win the league that year, and they were regulars in the FA Cup final. So I thought this would be walk in the park. And Wimbledon bashed us up. I think it was 3-0 or 3-1, and just bullied Everton. It was when Fashanu was playing. There was Dennis Wise, I think, young Dennis Wise, whipping crosses in.
It's on YouTube.
Is it?
It's on YouTube.
I think Glyn Hodges scored a great goal, so I really like Glyn Hodges. But I remember I was going home from there just so disappointed, but also just loved the atmosphere, and because it was so local, it was just like, want to come down here more often. And then when I went to secondary school, I had a lot of mates that were Wimbledon fans, so we used to go down there. Me and my mate Joe Armstrong, who's a big Wimbledon fan, Damien Francis, who ended up playing for the club, we used to go down every opportunity. So, and because it was just, it's a special club, you know.
I mean, there are so many of our fans who never got to experience the original Plough Lane. It closed in the year I was born, and so for me, reliving experiences comes from people like yourself and other ex-players and people who were involved in sort of the administration of the football club and the hierarchy of it. And so I'm sat and I'm so fascinated by the history of the place and the area and what it meant to people, because that's what it's all about, this football club. It's what it means to us as Wimbledon supporters. And Plough Lane was always such a big part of it. I've heard so many different stories. What was it like in the area, though? Because Sky TV wasn't a thing then. People didn't have access at the touch of a button to consistent sort of like and continuous Premier League highlights and Champions League highlights, and people weren't going out, following players rather than clubs. And so I'd imagine that the clamouring for the football club was huge from sort of like the local youth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like I'd been to other, watched other Premier League games. My dad used to take me to QPR and Brentford and stuff like that. But there was a real sense of humour about the club as well. Like amongst the fans, there was a sort of, it felt different than going to any other game. It's hard to describe it. I mean, it's a terrible ground in reality, as the standard of grounds. But that added something to it. It was just, I was lucky enough to play there a few times, like, awful dressing rooms, like, but that gave it the character. It was, and because Wimbledon always had this, with like, they're always punching above their weight, they were always the underdogs, but just carried themselves with this, like, sort of cockiness and sort of, it was like no other club,
Was Glyn Hodges your first football hero?
No, I wouldn't say he was someone that I'd watched and really liked the way he played, and my dad was always like, whenever we went to games, he would say, right, watch him. I want you to watch him, and because he was quite different. He was quite a technical player. He was a classy player, and Wimbledon,
good brain.
Yeah, and those are the kind of players that I liked. So watching live, he would be one that I would, I'd want to watch and sort of study. Football hero wise, it's Maradona for me. You've got to aim high, haven't you? It was like, he's the greatest I've ever seen.
That was me hoping you said Alan Cork.
Oh yeah.
What a legend.
Oh, Corky.
If there was one Wimbledon player, genuinely, a lot of people have asked me, if there was one Wimbledon player I would have loved to have seen and watched play, it would be Alan Cork.
Yeah.
Proper.
Proper centre forward, wasn't he? Like, you don't get players like that anymore.
We do. We got Omar Bougil, and he's cut from the same sort of.
Oh,
club.
Brilliant!
He's like a modern version, Did you always know you were going to be a footballer?
Yeah. I mean, you have your doubts, but I remember I'd wake up like with having nightmares, and the nightmare would be that I wasn't a professional footballer, and that was from like 5 or 6. It was like that was all I ever wanted to do, and if I couldn't do that, I was like, well, what else is there? It was like, has to be, So that was always the plan.
And so, when you make it to Chelsea, when you go through the schoolboy process and you sign your YTS and you do that and you become a pro, what's that feeling like? Because it's the first major sort of milestone or set of milestones in your life.
Yeah, that is the as you come through the system, that's what you realise, that because so few manage it, and you're playing in like a youth team with like amazing players, and then you see some of them don't get the pro contracts, and you see how devastated they are, and you think, oh God, that could easily be me. So when you get that, I mean, you go, wow, you should never feel like you've cracked it, because you haven't. That is just the first step. That's just the beginning. But you go, right, you know, I've achieved that, and that is hard. So, but like I said, that really is just the beginning. Yeah.
You come through with some interesting names as well at Chelsea. John Terry was one of them. I'm trying to wrap my brain. Stephen Hitchcock, you mentioned. Was Paul Nicholls in that team?
Yeah, Nico.
Paul Nicholls.
I saw him. So I went to. Oh God, who were they playing? I was invited back to Stamford Bridge a couple of months ago, and he was sitting at the table, and I was like, I haven't seen him in years. So he was the first person that I played up front with in the youth team. So I was a schoolboy, and I think I was 14 or 15, and Nico would have been maybe 17 or 18, and I've been called into the youth team, which I was petrified because it was like they're like men, you know. And Nico I played up front with him, and he was brilliant with me. He sort of taught me through the whole game. At one point, he knew I was really struggling to the fitness levels that they had. It was like I realised that I'm not quite at that level yet. And after about an hour, I was struggling, and he was like, deep breaths, come on, you'll be all right. So he taught me through it. He was brilliant, Nico.
So everything's going well. You're at Chelsea, you're a pro, life is good. Obviously, look, there's a heavy continental influence at the football club, and there are some big names in there. But you hit a massive wall with an injury. Take us through it.
Well, I found out, so I actually had done the injury when I was 12 years old, but they misdiagnosed it as a groin injury. And I sort of had about 6 weeks off and then started playing again. And it seemed fine. And it was only once I was in, day out. I mean, it's actually when I was still in the youth team. It's my first season in the youth team, and just started to feel sore constantly. And they sent me to a specialist, and he said, it's not your groin, it's your hip. And this guy had just pioneered this keyhole surgery in the hip. They've been doing it in the knee, but first he'd only done a few in the hip. And he said, I want to go in and do this, have a look at it. And he found out that I'd ruptured a ligament back then. Apparently I was the first footballer to ever be diagnosed with that injury. So he didn't know what the outcome. I mean, they said to me at the time, we don't know whether you'll ever play again. But, you know, I'm hopeful you will. We just got to strengthen it. And it was like 9 months rehab. And yeah, let's just see how it goes. So that was that was my first year YTS. So I missed that whole season. But managed to come back. It was tough. It was missing that first season, and the rehab was tough. But yeah, the second season got myself fit. I think I scored 25 goals in the youth team that second season. Got my pro contract, and and it was. I thought that's it. It's done. But it never healed. They couldn't fix it.
So you then went to Bournemouth, right?
Yeah.
Why did you leave Chelsea?
I didn't want to. It was my final year on my contract, and obviously I'd made my debut when I was 18. I'd sat on the bench a couple of other times, but the injuries were a problem. You know, it was every time I got myself fit, I started flying again, hamstring would go or something, which I later found out was all probably connected to that hip issue. But I could see the players that were coming in, how hard it was going to be to get in. And then Bournemouth wanted to take me on loan. I went on loan for a week.
A 7-day loan.
Yeah. Well, it was, to be honest, so I'd just got an agent, which was Neil Clement. Do you remember Neil Clement?
Yeah.
So he'd said to me, have you got an agent? And I said, no. Why would I need an agent? And he said, right, we said, I've got a good one. Like I'll put you in touch with him. And he then said, look, I think it might be a good idea for you to get out on loan, see what's, because you're coming up to your last year. So he sorted out that Bournemouth loan, went down there, played, I think, a game in the reserves and trained. And there was 2 other lads with it. It was Stephen Broad and Jay Richardson. We all went down, 3 of us. And I remember we were in a hotel, and I was saying to the boys, look, I don't want to be here. Like, let's get out of it. So after the game, we went to the manager and we said, yeah, thanks for everything. Yeah, Chelsea, want us back. I just made it up. I was just like, let's get out of it. I don't want to be here at all.
Is that bad?
It wasn't that bad. It was just...
Had you been accustomed to something else?
Yeah, and it was like, I still thought that I could sort of prove myself and get... I think I could have got another year contract. I could have got an extension for another year. So that was the idea. And so we lied basically and went back to Chelsea. And then I get a phone call from my agent the next day. He said, how did it go? And I said, yeah, it went all right. And then he said, it must have gone better than all right. He said, they want to sign you. So I was like, oh, I was like, that didn't go to plan. And he said, look, I think it'll be good for you. He said, I really think he said, Bournemouth are one of those clubs, a lot of people do well there. They get a lot of good young loan players in. He said it's like a step down to go back up. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm doing it. And then it's so weird in football. You don't even get a chance to say goodbye. I next day drove to Chelsea, picked up my boots. All the lads were out training. I then had to drive down to Bournemouth, do the press conference and all that, and that was it. And I was a Bournemouth player. So I never really got to say goodbye. It was just like, wow, all of a sudden I'm playing for Bournemouth.
What was that period like at Bournemouth?
I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I was put up in a hotel, living in a hotel on my own for about sort of 3 or 4 months. And like, I'd never been away from home before. It was, it was tough. Like I said, I don't know, I don't think I was mentally tough enough like some players are, and it affected me. And I was just, I wasn't enjoying my football. And funnily enough, my home debut, I scored against Oldham. And the manager, Mel Machin, I think he liked me. And things could have gone differently. Funnily enough, Mark Steen was there at the time. And I'd played so many reserve games with Mark Steen at Chelsea. So that was quite nice, although he used to bollock me non-stop every time we played. He wanted the ball. If you didn't pass to him, he would be screaming in your ear. But a lovely bloke, great player as well. And so when the end of that season, Mel Machin went upstairs. He became like a director of football or something, and Sean O'Driscoll took over, and we just didn't click, and then I wasn't getting games, and I was again like just stuck in the reserves at Bournemouth, and you think, oh God, a few months ago I was at Chelsea, and now I can't get a game for Bournemouth, and you're like, you're thinking, what's going on here? I don't want to be here. So that was tough.
What happens then? What happens next? You've got an agent. You've gone to Bournemouth. You've taken a risk. You've left, the comfort of Chelsea. You've tried to do something. It looked like it was working, and now it's not. What happens next?
Well, they knew I wasn't happy there. I got called into the office, and they said, "Look, we know you're not happy. Like, we'll buy up, like, your contract, and you can leave." They said, there's a few clubs interested in you. I think Oldham was one, Kidderminster was another one, I think. And I jumped at the chance, because clubs don't normally do that. They'll just let you rot in the reserves, because it's easy. I had a year and a half left, I think. They could have just let me rot in the reserves, but they offered me to buy up the contract and leave. And I said, yeah, I'll take that. I was thinking, why did they do that? I found out after that they'd done their limit for loan players for that season. So by releasing me, they could get another loan player in. And that player they got in happened to be Jermaine Defoe, who went on to, I think he broke the record for like, for League One at the time or something like that. He scored something like 25 goals in 12 games. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's not a bad player to get in, is it? You know, so then I was without a club, and it suited me at the time because I just felt like I needed a break. I was like, I wasn't enjoying my football. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but my love of football had sort of gone. I wasn't enjoying. I was driving from London to Bournemouth every morning for training, and then driving back, and it was just, and I was thinking, because it's stupid, but I'd sort of gone to Bournemouth thinking, right, okay, I don't want to be here, but look, it should be easy for me. The players I'd been used to playing with, training regularly with, like some world-class players, I thought, wrongly, like that it would be easy. So much harder, you know.
Is this the beginning of the sort of 18 months out of football?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Not a lot, really. Not a lot. I was sort of, like I said, I had a bit of money and I was spending that. I was going out, enjoying myself. Kept saying, I'll wait till the end of the season because I thought next pre-season I'll find a club and I'll get back into it. But and then stupidly, I'd kicking a ball in a park with my mates. I'd smashed a bone in my foot, and that had put me out for another few months. So that delayed that. So before you know it, it's turned into 18 months, and as far as I know, I'm done. I'm retired. You know, I'm out.
What would you have done if you just retired then?
I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue. I mean, I was, like I said, I was running out of money as well. It's like, you know, it wasn't a huge amount of money I had, but it was enough to keep me going for a while. And yeah, I was not sure at all. I mean, I felt like I could get back into football. I thought at least League Two. I thought I'll go on trial somewhere. That was always the plan. And then AFC came along.
Did they come along, or did someone tell you that there's trials happening? Obviously, we all know what happens in that summer. So summer 2002, and some friends tell you that AFC Wimbledon are holding trials on Wimbledon Common. What did you know about what was going on, about Wimbledon Football Club, about AFC Wimbledon, and about the story and what was about to unfold?
I mean, I knew what was going on, obviously, because I was a local boy, you know.
So at that point, were you back in Wimbledon?
Yeah, I was back living. I was back home, living back at my mum's, and I started playing five-a-side with my old like schoolmates. One of them, Joe Armstrong, who's like big Wimbledon fan. And we were at the pub after playing five-a-side, and he told me about the trials, and I just thought, that's interesting, you know. And he said, I'm going to go if you go with me. And I was like, all right, cool. I thought, you know, I'm doing nothing. I haven't played 11-a-side in 18 months. I thought, God, it'll be a laugh. Like, let's go and see what happens. You know, I later found out that he never really intended to. He only said he'd go just to get me down, because he was like, you're wasting.
You bought him a pint to say thanks, yeah?
Oh, since many since then. But yeah, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have gone down. So I owe him that. I owe him a lot.
Take me back to that day on Wimbledon Common. I've heard you say somewhere else 500 odd people. That's a guesstimate. What genuinely was it like? Describe it for us.
It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It was just so many people, and I remember thinking like, how are they going to organise this? I mean, we did a group warm up with like 500 people. And it's like, imagine 500 running, doing doggies like up and down. I remember thinking, what is this like?
I mean, the people that turned up, you must have seen every sort of like, every sort of character out there.
Mm. Yeah. All shapes and sizes. It was like, and I remember thinking like, what have I done here? Like, this is crazy. But then I just decided, I thought, right, I'll find the manager. Because there's no way you can, how are you going to pick out talent in this huge group, It felt a little bit like a publicity stunt as well, rather than like how you could genuinely get a team together. So I sought out Terry Eames and just introduced myself and told him my background. And then I said to Joe, I said, come on, let's go. I said, we'll go. And then the next day I got a call from Terry. He said, yeah, I want you to play and I want you to be captain. So I said, brilliant. I said, I'm in, yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. You talk about it, looking like a publicity stunt. Did you have belief in what was going on behind the scenes?
Well, not at that point. It wasn't until the first game, it wasn't until the Sutton game, where I was like, hang on a minute. Something special is happening here. And I think it was at that moment where because my intention, I thought, once Terry had said, yeah, I want you to be captain, I thought, right, this will be brilliant for me because the level isn't great, so I can ease myself in, I can find out where I'm at, I can get fit, and then I can get back into league football. But after that Sutton game, I was like, I don't care about league. I was like, I want this. I was like, this is amazing. I want to be part of this. From that moment on.
I mean, assembled on a common, and then you have to come together as a team. What was that first group like?
Raw. It was like, there were some talented players there, but it was just a mix of, like I said, very young, raw players and older players that say 10 years ago had been good, So.
But you were the leader. You're still a young man as well.
Yeah.
At that time.
And I said to Terry, when he said about being captain, I said, Terry, I've never been captain. Well, not since I was like 11 years old. I said, I'm a centre forward. I said, I don't think centre forwards make good captains. So I gave him that out. I said, you sure you want me to be captain? Yeah, I want you to be captain. So I was like, all right. And I just thought, look, I'll lead by example. I'll just try and let my play do the talking. And but yeah, I drove there, and the game was delayed because of all the crowd congestion and everything. And then I'm doing press conference. I'm doing Sky Sports on the side of the pitch, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, a few months ago I was, like I said, playing five-a-side and going to the pub after, and now I'm doing this, and just what the fans were giving you, like the message from the fans was it was like it was hope and joy. They had their club back.
Did you use the word hope? Did you need a bit of hope as well? Did you need?
Oh, I needed it.
Something to get you going again, because 18 months out of it, you're back at your mum's, you're running out of cash, you're playing five-a-side when you were playing at Chelsea 2 years before.
Yeah.
Did you need something just to sort of relight that fire?
Yeah. I say the club saved me. It was like that. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for AFC Wimbledon. I mean, it gave me something to be part of again, and just a second chance at playing again. Because I'd fallen out of love with football, but I loved football. I just got to that stage where that little kid in you those feelings had gone, and it had become. I'd seen the business side of football, and this was the exact opposite. This wasn't the business side of football. This was what football's about. This is, if you like, a mate of mine said, he said, like, we were going to Liverpool away, like Anfield away, and then within a year or so, it was like, we're going to Frimley Green away. But they loved it, absolutely loved it. And I thought, yeah, if they can do that, and turn up to watch this group of misfits, with that much passion and joy, and I was just like, that's unbelievable. That's what football's about,
I know Nottingham Forest coined it sort of like in the 70s, 80s, but it's all about that love and feeling.
Yeah. No, it's. I think everyone that played for the club at that time will tell you that it was a special feeling. It really was.
When you look at it today, though, I mean, we're about to be 24 years on.
Wow.
The club still has that love and feeling, and it still has that feeling of togetherness and that warmth.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it and I think that obviously naturally things evolve over time.
Yeah. And
maybe the way the club shows love and that feeling you get has evolved. We are back at Plough Lane. We're playing in League One. We're fighting and we're battling every week against some real, highly financed organisations. But we retain the community element of it. We retain that sort of that family element of it.
Yeah.
And it feels very, very special.
Do you go when you go to the ground? It's interesting because I was saying this to someone the other day. When I go to that ground, it feels like no other ground that you go. It's got a very community feeling to it. The way people walk around and interact with each other, it's different so much than any other ground you go to.
I would say that my own family, like I will try and introduce my friends and my family to every person I brought there. It's like, brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
If you go once, you love it. You're like, I've got to come back here.
It's
I know people that are not Wimbledon fans, but they've got young kids now, and they're like, right, I'm bringing my kids to Wimbledon as often as possible.
I was doing Wimbledon tennis for the BBC a couple of years ago, and I was out and about interviewing fans in the queues and whatnot. I was like, where are you from? Wimbledon. Have you been to see us at the Lane lately?
Yeah.
My editor was like, you can't ask everyone. I was like, I'm asking everyone. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
But it's a special organisation. Take me back to July the 10th, 2002. Don't start at Gander Green Lane, though. Tell me about the day, the build-up to it, because this game was in the evening, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we know it got delayed. But take me back to the morning, waking up. You're going to be walking out, playing for AFC Wimbledon, putting on some form of badge, because obviously those kits were great, weren't they? Donated, obviously, by Sports Interactive. But what was that day like and the build-up to it, the anticipation?
It's funny because I'd stayed up all night. I'm a big baseball fan, right? And the World Series was on, and I stayed up really late watching that, right? And so I probably woke up probably lunchtime or something like that. And don't remember feeling any nerves or anything. To me, it was just a game. It wasn't anything that I was really nervous about, or I can't remember having any sort of expectations or anything. It was once I drove there and I was trying to get into the ground, when it hit me, I was like, oh my God, because I didn't expect that. I thought there might be a few hundred people there, because while we're setting the team, while we're trying to get the players together and everything, we're training on the common still. We're not hearing anything about the expectations of crowds or what this game's going to be like, or how much it means to the fans. So I was still, quite, I don't know, naive is the word, but just to knowing what was going on behind the scenes. So it was at the moment when I pulled in, when I was like, fuck, this is not what I expected, and it's big. I'm driving, like, you get people banging on the car, waving, I didn't expect that.
You managed to get yourself into the dressing room.
Yeah.
Is everyone else the same?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Is everyone else just like in awe?
Oh
of
yeah,
what they're
yeah,
seeing outside.
yeah. I mean, I was having to. I didn't spend much time in the dressing room because we had to do the press conference, right? Which I'd never done before either. I'm sitting up there with everyone. If you ever see the picture, got a complete gormless look on my face, like, because I'm like, what is going on here? And I see the guy asking questions was the guy who was presenting the baseball on Channel 5 that I'd watched the night before. And because I pulled him afterwards, I was like, did you have a late night too? Because you just go... And we had a little chat about that. And then I'm whisked off to do this interview for Sky Sports beside the pitch. And then it's like, right, I better hurry up and get changed. And so I was hardly in the dressing room. And then, ran out and, the rest is history. Yeah.
Did you feel the emotion of it? Did you feel the sort of the magnitude of what was going on and what it meant to the fans and the people of Wimbledon, like from that moment?
Yeah. On that day I did, yeah. Especially it's like we got hammered 4-0. But it didn't matter. It was a party, you know. It was like, we've got our club back. And that was, you got that feeling, you know. And like I said, I'm in admiration of everyone who set it up, who was involved, everyone who turned up that day, you know. Because it wasn't good football they were watching. You know, it was, but they were there to drive this on, you know. And it was the very beginning of it. But yeah, I immediately picked up on that. And
for you though, being on the pitch after a very, very difficult time in your life, and I can imagine your mental state must have been really, really tough, 18 months sort of out of it.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Being out on the pitch, doing your thing, big crowd?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I wasn't... Yeah, the team... Like I said, the team wasn't great at the time, so it was like... I felt like I was doing things that other people weren't reading, and it was... I was probably quite critical of how I played, but yeah, it was just... I mean, like I said, just to be out there again and feeling like... I still realised, okay, I can play. I've got, you know, and it will come back to me, you know, which it did. And as we started to get better players, you know, it all started to click. But
Kevin Cooper?
Yeah, super duper. Yeah.
Scored, obviously, on that night, Gander, Green Lane.
Yeah.
He comes in and, it just scores an absolute dearth of goals.
Oh, I know. Like I saw it... You know, they did the charity game there, the celebrity game. Mm-hmm. So I was there with him. So, and that was the first time I'd seen him in years. And we had a great night. And I got to tell him, like, you know, he is probably the best finisher I've ever played with. You know, such a frustrating player in terms of like, he would, you know, all he wanted to do was score goals, and.
But there needs to be an element of selfishness.
Oh, yeah, I know. I joked with him. I said, like, that season he scored 66 goals. I said, you know, I think I set you up with 65 of them. But he was saying to me, oh, you know, he said, you used to do all the work for me and I'd get the glory. But, yeah, you need someone like that. I mean, yeah, if you've got someone like that on your team, you always feel like you're going into a game knowing that we're going to score, you know. So, yeah, he was great to play with, yeah. Yeah, frustrating, but just, yeah, what a ledge.
We move away from the Sutton game. How do things start to take shape? Because you look at a team being formed on a common, coming together, obviously backed by big numbers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it takes a while to implement any sort of football strategy. But you finished third in your first season. That's a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah. We started to get... I think at the end of pre-season, we started to get better players coming in. Simon Bassey came in, and like Bassey played at good level before. Like
another person with a great brain. Football brain.
Great! I mean, like, I've never met anyone with a knowledge of football like him. Not just about the game, but he knew about players all over the league, like, and and he would pull me aside and he would talk to me about, I mean, normally in the bar after we'd had a few drinks, but he would, constantly say, like, you could be, he said, you're in second gear. He said, you're playing in second gear. He said, like, you've got levels to go to, and so I love Bassey. I mean, like, is he back in football somewhere?
He is. He's in the Football League. He's doing his thing.
Because he should be.
Smooth operator.
Oh, I mean, as a person and as a bloke to have around the dressing room, he's like one of the best. Like, but his knowledge of football as well. Like, he'd be a credit to anyone that had him. So yeah, he started to come in. We got Matt Everard was a huge signing for us. Matt Everard was, I mean, I think he scored like 25 goals from centre back. It was unbelievable. What a player. Danny Okins, Lee Sidwell. We just started to get better. But I mean, like, Danny Okins, one of the most talented players I've ever played with. He could have played so much higher. And that was what it was like. We had this group, like I said, like, they're a bit like misfits who had like a second chance and just wanted to grab it,
Does that sort of forge stronger bonds? Do you become tighter because of it?
Yeah. And we had such a good social group. It was like we would go out after training, so we'd go out, we'd train, then have a few pints afterwards. After games, we'd stay there all together, drinking with the fans till the end of the night. And that creates a real good bond as well. But like I said, it's so talented group. Like, so many could have played a lot higher, and some did and were, dropping down just to see out their career, one last shot at, playing in front of fans like that. So, that first year, I think, if we'd have clicked a little bit earlier, we'd have got some better players, and a little bit earlier, we'd have won the league that year. We just started a little bit slow because we didn't quite have, like, Matt Everard and a couple of others that came in later.
What changed then for you guys to go on and win the league the next season?
Just the belief in how we once we got our squad together, once we got the team together, and it was settled, we were beating everyone, so we it was that confidence, We would go out and we were beating teams 8-0, 9-0, and we were having fun doing it, Like Joe used to say to me, he said like, I turned up 10 minutes late for the game and it's already 4-0. It's like, it was a great couple of years there because it was real fun, I'll never forget that. Yeah, those first 2 years were brilliant, and the fans were loving it. It was like I said, we were with them till till closing time after games. It was like,
when I mean, you're in the sort of those first couple of seasons. You talked about your own personal journey about where you were and the fact that the club saved you. In fact, where were you? Did you feel you were healing along the way? Did you feel like, I'm getting things together? I'm on a path now.
Yeah. I mean, Gavin Bolger was another one that came in young. He was like, I was 19 or 20 when he came in from Wimbledon. He'd been a pro at Wimbledon, and I'm half Irish. He's Irish. We connected straight away. He got me into. He was working for a coaching company, so I started coaching as well, which was good for me because I was, because you got to remember this that everyone else has got jobs, and I'd never had a job in my life. It was like football was my job, so he got me a job there. So I was doing that and then playing, and things were going well. And I could see a future then. I could see, right, this is, like you said, I suppose healing. Yeah.
People always talk about the Wimbledon spirit, and when you think about the rise from the original Wimbledon Football Club's rise through the non-league into the Football League, the crazy gang, the Premier League years. Did you feel that that group had its own sort of unique spirit?
Yeah. I think we were a sort of crazy gang. I mean, some of the stuff that went on the coach trips and nights out was pretty crazy. I don't know whether we were at their level or because I don't know. I heard stories from Terry Phelan when he was at Chelsea that some of the stuff they got up to, but yeah, I think we were our own little crazy gang, and we had a great spirit, and I think, like I said, because we spent so much time with the fans, there was a real bond there, you know. So we became friends, like that's what I love about going down there now. You know, I'll get bump into friends from back then, and they truly are friends. They're like, you know, because they drove the club, you know, and I'm forever grateful for that. So that's what I love about going back down there. It's just, it brings back such happy memories because it was the happiest time for me in football. And like I said before, everyone who played in that era would tell you the same. It's special group.
What was it fun going away to grounds where they had sort of like, you know, fans in double figures and turning up with hundreds if not thousands? But
you got to remember, we made their season. Like the money they generated would set them up for a few years probably. I mean, some clubs built, you know, new bars, and they built, you know, infrastructure around the ground because of our away trips. So they were happy to see us as well. So it was it was like a carnival atmosphere every game. It was, you know, not knowing what to expect. Some grounds were not too bad. Some was like rope around the pitches, you know, so you never knew what to expect, but it was always like a party atmosphere, you know.
Ask this question with the greatest respect. When you came to Wimbledon, do you feel like the ego and I've come through Chelsea, do you think it had gone? Do you think you had to maybe leave it at the door? You had to humble yourself and go, right, I'm here, I need this as much as they need me, and we're going to crack on?
I think, I don't know, if you'd asked me back then, I would have said I didn't have an ego, but of course I did.
Yeah, but hindsight's a great thing, and you're older, you're wiser.
Of course, I mean, that's some of the decisions that I made were out of ego. You know, it was definitely humbling. I mean, the Bournemouth experience was humbling. Then, that's what I mean. So you then accidentally become part of this amazing thing. Like, it is the greatest story in football. You know, it is. So then become part of that at right at the beginning. You have to carry that humility with you because, yeah, this thing has given me a second chance. I owe everything to this club, you know. So, yeah, it was. I probably was humbled by it all, and I became a better person because of it. Definitely.
We're running out of time. You look at the football club now, back at Plough Lane, and you look at everything that's happened over the past 24 years, and the journey's remarkable. Yeah. Do you ever reflect on your own part in it? Do you ever sit and when you're at the lane going, right, wow, you know, I was at the very, very start here?
Yeah, but only when like someone like you know Jonesy, right?
Of course. Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. So he said something lovely to me about last time I saw him, just about when he saw me, it gave him confidence that this club it wasn't just gonna fizzle out, and that blew me away because I've always felt like I'm lucky to have been part of it, and I played a tiny small part in it. And when someone says that to me, I go, okay, maybe I did make a difference. Maybe, you know, which is amazing, because so many people have, like the people that started it from the beginning, the Erics, the Chris Stewarts, Ivers, you know, so many people. Yeah, I mean, I give them all the credit. And then there's been so many great players since. So it is nice to look back and go, okay, I did play a little small part in that, and I can hang on to that.
I would say this club has been built on nomadic forwards, you know, forwards with personality, with character, and you certainly are one of them. Your service to the club was iconic, and we really, really appreciate you joining us on this episode of the podcast. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot. It means a
lot. That is it for this episode of the official AFC Wimbledon podcast, brought to you by Fire Door Compliance Consultants Limited. Head over to fdccltd.co.uk, give Dan a call, and make sure your doors are checked, they're safe, and they are compliant. We will catch you on the next one. Until next time, come on, you Dons.